Hey folks, it's Nate. Thanks for joining me at the art table again today, and I wanted to talk about Brenden Swan's StrangeLove. This is a story that is not a direct follow-up to Disintegration Street, which I talked about on Monday, but as I mentioned on Monday, there are connections between StrangeLove and Disintegration Street. If you want to know more about those connections, I addressed them about as far as I intend to in my video on Disintegration Street. Right now, I just want to talk about StrangeLove, and this is an interesting work of suspense. It's not quite a horror story, not in the same way Disintegration Street was, certainly. It focuses on an artist who's looking for a muse. He goes to the beach and looks at women because, let's face it, for a lot of men, our creative muse is a woman. And he doesn't find anything there, but he winds up going into the mansion of a local mad scientist, for lack of a better term, and discovers a robot girl there that he then kind of falls in love with. The robot is clearly designed to attract others to her, specifically men, although she could probably do it with women as well. We don't see that, of course, because there's only a handful of characters here. But we later find out that our artist has troubles with his girlfriend. She shows up. The robot gets jealous. There's some altercations there, and things work out more or less for the best. There's a twist ending, of course, but just to keep you on your toes, it twists twice. Nice touch there, Mr. Swan. The storytelling is quite good in this story. Unlike Disintegration Street, where some of the dialogue is clunky and there are twists and turns that don't always seem to add up in the progression of the story, StrangeLove runs very naturally. It's also only 43 pages, so it doesn't have quite as much room to go off the rails. Disintegration Street did meander a bit, and some of the stuff that was introduced into it that seemed to come out of nowhere just doesn't have place in the page count of StrangeLove. There are also only 3 characters to get to know, which is nice after the large cast of Disintegration Street. Each of the characters is very clearly defined. They have a role in the story. They have very real, convincing, and consistent dialogue. They have a clear character progression. In the case of our protagonist, the other 2 are really supporting characters that don't so much have a character progression as they have a piece of the puzzle, so to speak. And all of them work quite well in what they are intended to do. They add up to that twist ending, and then the next twist quite well. Great work on all of that. Now, I got this as a PDF. I don't have a physical item to comment on, which is why we are just looking at this cover art. But from this cover art, if you compare it to the cover of Disintegration Street, you can see that Mr. Swan has progressed as an artist a lot. The quality of the artwork in StrangeLove is markedly better than the quality of the artwork in Disintegration Street. Part of this could be the fact that StrangeLove is done entirely in black and white, except for this cover that we are looking at. I don't think that's the case. I think that we are really looking at a quantum leap in artistic skill. Swan has clearly learned a lot drawing Disintegration Street, and he has refined his techniques. His facial expressions are much better in this book. This is one of the things I knocked him on in Disintegration Street, and he has beaten it here. Props to you, Brenden. At the same time, he hasn't lost his sense of posing that is very dynamic and speaks to character and mindset very clearly. That's also very nice to see. Sometimes people work so hard at polishing out their rough spots, they lose what made them distinctive as an artist. I think that Brenden is starting to get a grasp on what he wants his signature style to be, and I'm very glad for it because it's very appealing. There is a strong sense of emotion and expression, even in fairly static or distant panels, and I like to see that. I would like to be able to duplicate that personally, but that's neither here nor there. Storytelling-wise, my one big gripe is I don't really understand why the main character arrives at the emotional place he arrives at. He remains attached to the robot girl, but they never really form a strong bond in the course of the story that we read. And he also, at one point, chooses his living girlfriend over the robot girl. And again, I'm not sure what the motivation for that was. The girlfriend is introduced about halfway through the story, and we get no sense of what the status quo between the protagonist and her was. All of this makes the emotional turns the protagonist goes through a little weightless. They don't seem to have a lot of significance to him. He just seems to pendulum back and forth very quickly. And I think that part of that may be the fact that we're just supposed to see him as an artist and he's looking for his muse, so he's kind of suspended between these two muses. I would have liked to see that status quo outlined at the beginning of the story. I think that would have given more weight to both this turn he makes in the middle of the story and also helped us understand how the robot girl is filling that role during their brief flirtation during the story. All of that would have made the emotional beats for the protagonist much, much clearer. And I would have liked to see that. That said, StrangeLove is a huge leap over Disintegration Street in visual appeal and in writing. And while I liked Disintegration Street, I think StrangeLove is at the beginning of a story I could really invest in. I don't know if there's going to be sequels to this or if it's going to be tied into Disintegration Street. Either way, very interesting storytelling that I am interested in seeing more of. Good work, Mr. Swan. I look forward to your next project. That's all I've got for you today. There's a like button and subscribe button down below. You can use those as you see fit. Let me know what you think of StrangeLove if you've read it. And I will talk to you later.